Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about professional or pro difficulty for Resident Evil 4 Remake and whether or not enemies are actually stronger on pro difficulty as compared to hardcore or simply just hard difficulty. As usual, spoilers ahead and timestamps are in the description. The recorded gameplay shown here will also have many quick turning and some flashing effects, so please beware if you easily suffer motion sickness. Okay, once you finish the game on hard difficulty for Resident Evil 4 Remake, you can get access to professional difficulty, and the game says for this particular difficulty, autosaves are disabled, parrying is limited to perfect parries, and also you will get access to all the weapon upgrades from the very beginning of the game. Now, I will talk about each of these points later on in the video. Most of you probably have played Resident Evil 3 Remake, and when selecting Inferno difficulty on that game, the game clearly says that enemies are even stronger than on Nightmare difficulty, and there are also less typewriters and less storage boxes as well. But all these things are absent for Resident Evil 4 Remake professional difficulty. Therefore, the obvious question is for RE4 Remake, are enemies stronger on pro difficulty? Because the difficulty selection screen does not actually give a clear indication of this. Do enemies have different attack patterns or attack speeds? So, let's do some tests to see if enemies are actually tougher, both in terms of doing more damage to Leon and taking more damage to be defeated. Towards the beginning of the game, after Leon escaped from the first house he entered, he will encounter two infected villagers, one with a pitchfork and another one with an axe. This will be the perfect place for doing the testing. So I will use this enemy with the pitchfork to test how much damage he does to Leon on both professional and hard difficulty. Please note the testing are done on New Game, not New Game Plus, with the latest game version, which is 1.005, I think. If there are any significant changes, I will update you guys accordingly. First, on hard difficulty, we will wait for the enemy to charge at Leon and hit him with the attack. I made sure Leon is on full health and he cannot use any additional healing items. After getting hit by one attack from the pitchfork, it is possible to completely heal the damage with just one green herb. Additionally, if Leon gets hit by two attacks, he will only have a small amount of health left, and the health indicator will be red. If you get hit one more time, even with a throwing weapon, Leon will die from the third hit. Okay, let's move on to professional difficulty. Again, we make sure Leon is at full health, and then we will get hit by the pitchfork attack again. But you will notice that after using one green herb, Leon's health is not fully healed, and there is a small amount missing. So this means enemies do slightly more damage on professional than hard difficulty. Sometimes it may not be very obvious because the difference is relatively small. If you get hit by two attacks on professional difficulty, Leon will have basically no health left, and the third hit will be fatal. Therefore, in terms of number of hits for your character to go down, it is rather similar between the two difficulties. Of course, later on in the game, once you have increased your maximum health and get the body armor, this small amount of difference in damage may become more significant. But overall, at the early stage of the game, the difference is not as significant compared to other Resident Evil games. For example, in RE3 Remake, enemies on Inferno do significantly more damage compared to enemies on Nightmare difficulty, and there are also more instant death attacks from various different enemies on Inferno difficulty as well. But how about the amount of damage that enemies can absorb before they are defeated? Well, let's have a look On hard difficulty, with the default handgun unupgraded, it takes about 6 hits to take down the villager with the pitchfork. I try to aim at his body to avoid any critical hits, which can change the results. I have tested this 3 times and this is consistent. On professional difficulty, as you can see, it takes about 7 hits to take down the same enemy. Again, I have tested this multiple times and the results are very similar. Therefore, enemies on pro difficulty are only slightly stronger as compared to hard difficulty. It is important to note that there are some similarities between the two difficulties as well. For example, majority of the infected villagers, the average enemy that you will face in the game, will still be defeated from a single stealth attack, even with a kitchen knife. Most weapons have similar amount of hit stun between the two difficulties as well. The shotgun is still just as effective in knocking down smaller enemies at close range. However, stronger opponents, such as the one with the chainsaw or the one with the big hammer, will have high resistance to hit stun. Further to this, enemy attack patterns, including bosses, are also very similar between the two difficulties. They have the same type of attack, which can be dodged mostly the same way. Now, this is simply from experience, just playing on professional difficulty. Enemies do appear to be slightly more aggressive, but this is not easy to test, so I cannot be 100% sure about this. Okay, now that we know the average villager is actually a little bit stronger on professional as compared to hard difficulty, I will now talk more about the differences between these two game modes. First, no autosave. Now, this isn't a major issue because there is always a typewriter near an autosave point. The game is rather generous with the number of typewriters, and unlike Resident Evil 3 Inferno, the number of save points are the same. The location of items and treasures are unchanged. As you can see in the gameplay on the background for Chapter 2, all the items are still in the same location. The only thing that is inconvenient relating to autosave is that it actually removes a lot of buffer time. That is the time you have to move from the typewriter save point to, let's say, the boss battle. Sometimes you need to go through a corridor, open a door, etc. However, because enemy attack patterns are rather similar between the two difficulties, you can actually practice on hard difficulty, taking advantage of the auto-saving feature, then get familiar with the attack patterns of the bosses, and once you're confident with how to dodge the attacks, then you can play on professional difficulty. Secondly, parrying is limited to perfect parries. This is probably the most important difference. You have to perfectly parry melee attacks, so you can no longer parry a little bit earlier. This makes parrying attacks significantly more difficult. This also means your defensive ability becomes somewhat limited. Of course, this only applies to parrying and not knife defense. The difference is that for knife defense, you will see the game telling you to press the L1 button to defend against certain attacks. For example, you cannot perfectly parry a chainsaw swing, but you can use your knife to block the attack. So, this is not affected by the difficulty change. The same thing for some of the attacks from the village chief. You also don't need to perfectly parry those attacks as well. Another exception is for the Krauser boss battle at the end of chapter 11, where you must fight him with a knife. Same thing also for the second Krauser boss battle at the end of chapter 14. Of course, you will still need to make sure that you have a knife that is not broken to parry, and there are also certain attacks that you cannot perfectly parry as well. So in some situations, this change will probably not make so much difference. Although parrying is very important and useful throughout the game, it is not necessary to be absolutely perfect with it all the time, because most enemy attacks can be position dodged, and once you figure out their pattern, you can safely avoid majority of attacks. However, one important note is that parrying can be very useful for escaping attacks when Leon is getting comboed. In this game, enemies can combo attack you into oblivion. After getting hit, there are only certain situations where you get iframes, and the stun locking means you cannot run away. So you can easily be combo locked until the end of time. And this is where perfectly parrying an attack can actually help you get out of the combo. It also gives you an opportunity most of the time to initiate a melee attack. During the melee attack, you get iframes. You can also knock surrounding enemies away. This can, in many cases, give you an opportunity to escape a difficult situation. And finally, all weapon modification upgrades will be available from the start. Of course, this is rather useful as you can fully upgrade your weapons as soon as you meet the merchant in Chapter 2. Yes, that is provided you have the appropriate amount of cash or credit. You can even get the exclusive upgrade if you want. So you can focus to max out one of your favorite weapons even before you get to the castle part of the game. Now, in terms of instant death or high damage attacks, it is again similar between the two difficulties. There are, however, some exceptions. For example, the villagers with the dynamite sticks. Be very careful of them on professional difficulty, as the dynamite can do huge amount of damage to Leon if he gets too close. Additionally, enemies have very high accuracy when throwing anything, explosive, Molotov cocktails at you. They can easily hit you from really far away. Moreover, the dynamite sticks will bounce around and they can even bounce into windows, bounce into doorways, and they seem to always land really close to you. The same thing for enemies using the rocket launcher. Be very careful as they can do huge amount of damage to Leon. So try and increase Leon's maximum health as soon as possible to avoid the game over screen. Once you're in Chapter 8, you can also get the body armor, which offers you some protection from explosives. Another important note is that enemies with throwing weapons and crossbows appear to have really good accuracy and can easily hit you from even long distance away. Of course, crossbow and throwing weapons, they can be blocked using the knife. So, professional difficulty on Resident Evil 4 Remake may sound like it is a lot easier than Inferno on Resident Evil 3 and Village of Shadows on Resident Evil 8, but it is deceptively difficult. For example, most enemies will move slowly towards you, and once in range, they will suddenly charge and attack you. The game sort of deceives and tricks you to think enemies are slow and weak, but actually, they can attack very quickly, leaving you only a small window of opportunity to dodge and parry once they attack. Additionally, their attacks also carry a lot of forward momentum and range, making it difficult to position dodge. Further to this, enemies will also wait until your iframes are just about to finish, then they will charge up their attacks in order to land a hit. Leon can also be quickly overwhelmed when there are too many enemies around. Throughout the game, there are many challenging encounters that you need to deal with, especially when Ashley is around. Because not only do you have to look after her, you have to make sure that you do not hit her with friendly fire. Even one hit with the pistol is enough to fail your mission. So sometimes making just one or two mistakes will cause the game to be over. Anyway, that is all I want to talk about today, and I hope this video has been informative. Thanks everyone for watching. I do appreciate the view. I will see you guys next time. Bye.